Good afternoon. I'm John Stillwagon, the Communications Director at the American Sport Fishing Association, and I'd like you to, excuse me, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on sales forecasting, purchase order planning, and preseason strategies. Today's speaker is Chris Frangiosa. Chris has worked in the fly fishing retail world for his entire career. Since 2006, he's managed TCO Fly Shop, which is a five-store fly fishing specialty retailer in Pennsylvania. And then in 2019, Chris started Wild Consulting, which is a company that helps specialty retailers with best practices, merchandising, integration of e-commerce platform solutions, and much more. So Chris is the ideal person to talk about today's topic. Please like to welcome Chris Frangiosa.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to start this off. All right, there we go. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of different things as it pertains to purchasing and inventory management. One of the things that we talk about a lot in our consulting work is how important this is as it pertains to profitability, understanding your business, and really taking control over what you're doing. And we're going to dig in pretty deep here. I will say that everything that you're going to see today in this presentation will be available afterwards online on the ASA website, and John will elaborate more on that at the end. Additionally, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll be answering them towards the end of the presentation today. So again, thanks for joining us as we dig in here. So hoping this slide will change. There we go. So talk briefly about our agenda today and what we're going to cover. And I'm going to try to go slow. Some of this stuff is really detailed, and we'll work through these things. Again, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We love when we get this. So one of the first things we're going to talk about is why using preseason orders, why that's critical to the health of our business. So understanding what that can give us over time. The next thing we're going to talk about are what are the tools you need to be successful as it pertains to writing preseason orders. And this is the actual functional part of the actual order writing and management. Understanding the vendor dealer programs and what they offer you and how to take advantage of those to maximize profitability. How we organize this system, and organization, as you'll see, is so key to this. This cannot be something that we just set and forget. This is something we have to have our constant vigilance on. And then the last thing we're going to talk about are reports. So what are some reporting that we can run through our native point of sale and inventory management systems to help us better understand what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Okay, so the first presentation slide here is dealing with preseason orders and why they're important. So preseason orders do a few things. Preseason orders, first, from a definitional standpoint, are orders that you write early in advance to tell the manufacturers what product you're going to want long before you need it. So just to delineate a preseason or a pre-book, as some people call it, compared to an ASAP or an at-once order, which happens immediately. So those are the differences there. Why do preseasons deserve our attention? Firstly, they increase margin. So whenever we're telling a manufacturer that we need product 6, 8 months, a year out, that allows them to plan. And by allowing them to plan through this forecasting, they're paying the retailers back through increased margin. So number one, any kind of long-standing preseason order will offer better margin, which in turn leads to more profitability for us. So that's the first reason. And if that is not enough on its own, it is. It's such a strong reason to do these things. There's many more reasons, but profitability increasing and margin increases is worthwhile right there. Okay, the second thing is allocation. In a lot of instances, manufacturers will base their production on preseason or forecasted orders. So in instances of highly popular items, the only way to get those is through allocation via preseason. So That's another reason. If you have a new product that's coming out that you're excited about, probably everyone else is too. And if you don't pre-season that product, you're not getting it. So allocation is number two. Next, this is another big one. They're all big. So this is just driving home the reason for this presentation. A well-planned preseason calendar helps you to smooth out your payables curve, as opposed to taking everything all at the same time. As we look forward here, we're making multiple ship dates and things like that. We'll talk about that. Helps you to control your spending and also gives you more accurate ability to revise your orders, as you'll see. And then the last part is it just makes you look, and we have here makes you a pro, but it makes you look in more detail at your business, learning more about inventory management, showing you in advance potential markdown strategies that will help drive business, understanding your key metrics through through reporting. And all of those things lead us to understanding our business better, maximizing profitability, and kind of getting ahead of these things as opposed to kind of chasing. Next, how do preseason orders or pre-books improve profitability? So the first point, the difference between a preseason order profit margin and an ASAP order profit margin can be massive depending on your manufacturer. Here we have 20%, which is extreme, but it's intended to show you how important it is. I look at it as it's an average across all of your manufacturers. If you write pre-seasons the correct way, that you could save 10 to 12%, 10 to 12% increased margin throughout the season. Imagine at the end of the year, if you looked at your P&L, if your profitability was 12% more with the same number of sales and how important that can be. Next, how do you want to control pre-seasons versus at-once orders? And we like to, when we're doing consulting work, to look at it, if you can target 80% pre-season, 20% at once, that's a healthy balance. There's no way you're going to know exactly what's coming. There's no way to be 100% on preseasons, but 80-20 is a good rule. Next, we can strive for the highest dealer level if we write more preseasons. And we're going to look at some dealer programs here shortly. But the more you write in a forecast, the higher margin you get and the higher level you are with that dealer. Along with that manufacturer. Along with that, other benefits follow that and that we'll talk about. But by doing an 80-20, you have more chance of being at the higher level in your manufacturer's tiers. And then lastly, on this slide, one of the best ways to increase your dealer level is to reduce your vendor list. This sounds obvious, but I think it's something that we need to take a minute and talk about. It's not done often enough. Is how often are we scrutinizing our manufacturer list? Who we're buying from? How do we do that and why is that important? So as mentioned in the previous point, the less vendors we have, the more we're buying from them. We become a more important customer. The less vendors we buy from, the more direct message we're sending to our customers when they walk in the door of our store or go on our website. What are some ways to scrutinize our vendor list? Number one, look at sales history. That's pretty straightforward. If it's selling, that's working. If it isn't, it's not. If it's not working, it probably shouldn't be in there because it's costing us more money and it's not producing. Next, demand. That goes along with sales. Our customers walking in the door, are staff excited about this product? If they're not, maybe it doesn't belong in there. Availability or relationships with manufacturers. So how easy is the manufacturer to work with? How available is the product when you need it? Is it cool? That's another question. Are we responding to a need in sales or a trend? Both are okay, but we need to make sure that we're constantly monitoring our vendor list to make sure that we don't have extra vendors. It also makes our purchasing a lot easier as our vendor list is tighter, more concise, and it also sends the message to the manufacturer that we're supporting them in the best way we can. Next, what is needed for success with all this that we're talking about? Number one, I mentioned earlier, organization is so important. As an example, as we talk about knowing what's coming, do you know what orders you have placed? Do you know when they're shipping? Do you know what's on them? Do you know what margin is associated with them? And that comes to organization, which we're going to talk about. We'll also will supply a buying calendar template at the end of this that will also be on the ASA site for you to download and utilize for your own business, which will help you kind of get right off the ground with this right away. So, number one, this is not a job for post-it notes. We have so much technology at our fingertips these days, shareable sheets, um, Excel, obviously, as well. So we can really keep track of this in a much better way because this is constant vigilance. So I want you to be monitoring your purchasing all the time because in one day, you may be doing a lot. You may be writing a preseason order. There's a list here, submitting ASAP orders, working on edits, helping customers. It gets in the way. So we need to have an organizational strategy that allows you to flex and do other things and come right back and know what you're working on. There are tools for that success, and that's what we're going to go through next. The buy sheet, an ASAP order tracker, and a missed sale list we're going to talk about. The next part is, are we understanding our business through reporting? We all have robust reporting systems attached to our internal systems. Do we know how to use them? And that's really important as we talk about reporting, understanding why we're writing orders, and are those orders justified? Does it give us a clear picture of what customers need? Sales tell us that. So running those reports, as we'll look at momentarily, help us to understand what the customer is looking for, what they've responded to in the past, and how do we replicate that? And then lastly, we're going to look at those vendor programs that we talked about earlier as well, and how to make them work for us. This is an important slide because it helps us to kind of delineate the differences between two major parts of our inventory, and that's hard goods and soft goods. Hard goods, for all intents and purposes, will be fishing rods, fishing reels, lures, things like that. Soft goods, we'll talk about specifically apparel, hats, gloves, shirts, pants. Shoes, whether they be casual or not, will live in hard goods for this conversation. And if you guys sell waders or wading boots or things like that, that also will live in hard goods, and you'll see why here in a second. One of the key benefits of hard goods is a long shelf life. So when you have a product that has a lifespan of 5 to 6, 7 years, it makes purchasing much easier. It allows you to buy in initially and then just refill what you need seasonally, as opposed to having to replace everything as we talk about soft goods. One of the drawbacks is those products can feel stale over time, but I urge you to try to hold on to them through their entire life cycle as long as they're performing. Hard goods is an easier thing to write because they tend to have better third-party value after as well. So once the hard good is discontinued, maybe a fishing reel is discontinued, the value of that reel is higher than it would be for an old shirt or something like that. Soft goods. Soft goods is harder for a couple reasons. There's a very short shelf life. In most cases, soft goods have 2 seasons per year, in some cases higher. And the goal is to bring them in and to sell out and not replenish them. So one of the questions would be, well, why do we need apparel? Well, it brings people into the store. And it's also one of the things that sells to people that may not relate fully to your hard goods assortment. In other words, we have a fishing focused store. Someone else walks in with their family and they buy some shirts and some pants and some other things. They may not even fish. So it helps us to diversify our customer base, gather good sales. Margin on soft goods is really good. And have something for everyone, which I think is important for the shopping experience. Is every store should have something if someone walks in the door that they can buy. And just to reiterate, this whole presentation will be available. So don't feel like you need to write everything down or take a screenshot, this exact thing is going to be posted so you can revisit it as often as you'd like. Okay, so here's some examples of what we're talking about. This is a soft goods program sheet. And I think one of the things that's really important to dig into here is the vocabulary of this whole thing and understanding a program sheet. Every manufacturer's looks different. So this is not a be all end all. This is just an example of some things that we wanted to point out. So it would give you guys a little bit better understanding of reading one of these dealer programs. The first thing is program level. So if we look at the top here, where it says program, there's 3 levels here, bronze, silver, gold, and it tells you the value of product at cost, always at cost, meaning MSRP, sorry, at cost, so at MAP. That actually it's not MAP either, sorry about that. So at cost, the cost to the dealer, not MAP. So in this case, $80,000 gets us to the gold level. But look what's happened to the preseason terms as we go higher in level. So bronze, which is a $5,000 to $30,000 buy-in, offers us, and here's a vocabulary piece, 4% 60, which is our early pay, meaning if we write it and pay within 60 days, we get an additional 4% margin, net 90. So 4% if we pay in 60 days, it's due in 90 days. If we go to gold, look what we get, another 4% in 60, 8% 60, net 90. So this is a chance for any business to look and say, how valuable am I to this manufacturer? Can I hit, if I'm bronze, can I hit silver? If I'm silver, can I hit gold? And if I can minimize my vendors, can I get higher and get this additional margin? Now look at the difference with ASAP. So ASAP at once, meaning you're ordering it right now. If I preseason it 6 months in advance or so, I get 8% additional margin and I get 90 days. If I ASAP it, the 8% is gone. So that's one example, 8% right there to the bottom line, if we can pull off the order. One other thing of note here is that typically clothing or apparel or soft goods has a higher margin. In this case, it's 50%. Higher margin than hard goods. In this case, waders and wading boots, which is 43%. So there's nothing we can really do about that, but just being aware of those things is really important. And these orders, again, are due many, many months prior. So right now, our consulting company is writing orders for spring 27. So we're writing orders that are due in July for spring 27. Always note there's a due date. Should always follow the due date because with the due date of the order, as I mentioned, this July 15th is an example. If you don't hit the due date, you don't get the benefits of the preseason terms. You can always ask, but you typically won't. So that's important. Also, understanding that you can write multiple ship dates. So if we look down here where program dates is highlighted, shipment dates, January 5th, 2026, this is a last year's program, through June 12th. So we have that entire time period to write up to usually 5 or 6 ship dates during that time to spread out our available, our order coming in, and also our payables going out. Next, who covers shipping? This is a great question. Often with preseason programs, shipping is covered by the manufacturer. Not always, often. In this case, free ground shipping will be awarded to all preseason back orders. So in this instance, they're not offering free shipping on the order, but they're offering shipping when they can't come up to the requirement that you've asked them to on ship date and product that you've asked for. Saves money right there. There's a lot of manufacturers that will also offer free shipping for preseasons, and that's paying you back for the forecasts. Next, this is adjustments and percentages allowed for order revisions. So if we look down to preseason adjustments, order adjustments must be submitted 30 days prior to the ship date. So what does that mean? This is one of the most important things we'll talk about today. You've written an order 6 to 8 months in advance. That is a crystal ball order. You're not going to be correct on all of it. It's impossible. So what they've done in order, again, to reward the retailer for writing a preseason order is they have allowed us 30 days prior to adjust an order up to 15% change. So that's significant. We need to be taking advantage of that. As we talk more, you'll see that program and the calendar for that. Okay, and then lastly, there's a special program. Sometimes manufacturers offer special programs. In this case, it's called the sportswear program. And it allows you to buy certain products at more better margin. So in this case, if you buy 125 units plus, 15%, 60. So that's another 15% on your margin and net 120. So you don't have to pay for 4 months and free shipping. So it just keeps stacking on top of each other. If you're not reading these programs in depth and you're not digging into them, you're missing major opportunities. We're going to shift over to another example here. This is a hard goods price sheet. The same things will apply, but we'll read through it just so you can better understand it. But if you leave with anything today, it's read through these programs. So standard wholesale, 35%. Not good, not bad. Level 4 for reels, 52%. So massive difference there if you can hit level 4. Even if you can hit level 1, which is barely anything, it's $2,500 to buy in, 43%, significantly better than that 35% standard. Now here you can see the difference between a preseason and a fill-in. A fill-in is an ASAP, as we talked about earlier, 52% compared to 48%. I think understanding that every dollar counts at the end of the year is so critical here. We can't leave it on the table. It's built for us to take advantage of these opportunities. Okay, a few other things. Preseason, net 60. Fill-in or ASAP, net 30. So there's 30 more days that you have to pay, which is nice. You may need that cash for something else. There's a due date, November 1st. There's a ship date list as well. And they're showing you here how many shipments you can do. Between November 1st and September 30th, you can have 4 preseason shipments. Any changes to preseasons must be made 14 days prior. So this is a little different. The last one was 30. You can see it's structured in a very similar way. This is going to look kind of crazy, so I'll explain it. So this is one of the things that will be provided to you after the seminar, and you'll have a calendar to be able to do this yourself. The most important thing here that I want to talk about is be organized. Whether you use our sheet or you use something that looks like this, whatever it takes, be organized. So we'll look at the sheet on the left and just take a look down to the second vendor. We'll look at Darn Tough here for this example. Darn Tough, if you scroll across, it will show you the terms. So the first thing that this sheet is showing you, it's giving you quick access to the terms. Why would you want that? You already know what it is because you wrote it. Well, you want to probably look at it when the order comes in to make sure that you're being invoiced correctly. The number of times, and I'm sure many of you can relate, that we've been invoiced incorrectly as a manufacturer, it happens all the time. So this is a quick reference. My Darn Tough sock order comes in. I'm checking the invoice. Does it say 7% 60? 70% early pay at 60 days? If it doesn't, I'm reaching out and telling them that they're billing me incorrectly. So that's step 1. Next thing, it tells us what our editability is on preseasons. In this case, it's 30 days or 4 weeks, and we can edit 20% of the order and change it. So again, quick reference. We're filling this in at the time as we're doing this. What's it showing us next? It's showing us a calendar above, January through September, because it's cut off in this instance. And it's showing us with Darn Tough, we have a 4/1 preseason, we have a 6/30 preseason, and we have a September 1st preseason. It's showing us our PO, our purchase order number, which is really important because we may need to reference that when we call Darn Tough to tell them that they gave us the wrong margin. But it's all right here. We don't need to search around. It saves time. It shows us our inventory, our original invoice amount, $660. And in this case, this order has been revised. So it's showing us that this order didn't need to be revised. So the revision amount is even. It's still 660. So in this case, this buyer did not utilize the revision time, and they didn't need to because they felt comfortable with the order as it was. The way we use these is we actually use these highlighted areas to show us what needs to still be done. So a question you might ask is, in this May column, May is highlighted here, why are there June orders in that May column? The answer is because we have 30 days to revise that order. So we're working in May on June orders, which is why you're always going to see June orders. And here in August, you're going to see September orders. ASAP order tracker. The ASAP order tracker is another sheet that we have that will also be provided. That's a very simple sheet compared to the last one we looked at. And it allows you to keep track of orders that were not part of your preseason program for a couple reasons. One, that vendor may not be a preseason or a pre-book vendor. They may not offer that. They may be ASAP only. So we'll use that for this. And maybe you needed more product in between preseasons from a preseason vendor. So you can see in this example, Buck Knives, they don't do preseason. So preseason, no. We did a $783 order on 217. This keeps you from ordering twice, and you might forget, or you have two buyers, they can reference and make sure they're not ordering over one another. Now, here's a good example. Here's Buff. Buff is a preseason vendor. But we still did an ASAP here. Probably ran out of product, didn't preseason enough, so ASAP. This is really just a sheet to remember what you're doing in a place that you can access it easily. Often we're suggesting to use a Google Doc because then multiple or Google Sheet, most of your people can access it and see what's going on as well. Next, a missed sale list. This is something that's relatively new that we've been asking our retailers to do, and it's very valuable. The missed sale list is a list that everyone on the team can access. It's a sheet that everyone can see, and it is intended to show why someone missed a sale. So here's an example. Employee name Ben. Customer asked if we carried a certain vendor. He left when we told him we did not have it. So this is an example of a couple things. What can happen here? We can buy that product, or in this case, Ben didn't realize that there's alternative items to that product that he could have offered. So it's a chance for education. And you'll see that with the second one too, Don. Don, customer asked for a Yeti hat. Don said no. Hey, Don, we have Yeti hats shipping on April 5th. So now he's ready for it for the next time. This is helpful for the buyers. This is helpful for management. This is helpful for the team. It sometimes shows you product that you need to buy. It sometimes teaches you things that you need to teach your team about. As an example, you might have one that says, well, here's a great example. The last one, Connor. Customer was heading on a tarpon trip, did not know how to rig a reel. Scheduled saltwater rigging training in the store. So now that person is educated and we've fixed that. So next time that won't happen. This is a great sheet to create. We don't have this to share. It's just a sheet that has these columns. It's pretty basic, but you'll be amazed at what you take from that. Next, we're going to dig into, just briefly, some reports that we like to run as we are purchasing. So what can we look at in our native reporting that help us to learn something? One is on-hand inventory report. So most of us, I'm sure, run these regularly. This is a pretty simple report. In this case, we're looking at turtle box. We always include variant. Variant will be color or size, depending on what the product is. Always include a SKU or a UPC, because that allows you to then talk to the manufacturer in a way that's easier. In this case, it shows a product type, which is electronics. And then there's multiple locations here, A, B, C, and D. But you can see our total inventory for Turtle Box at this snapshot moment was 32. So why do we want to run this report? If you have multiple locations, it's really valuable to see if you need to move product from one to the other to make sure that everyone has the product. If you are a single store, it will show you if you're out of something and you need to buy it, or potentially you have it, but it's in the back room and needs to be brought onto the floor, which is critical. That restocking is critical. The worst thing is customer comes in, wants to buy something, you have it, it's in the back room, and they leave. The next report, vendor sales. So this sounds pretty obvious as well, but let's dig into it a little bit more. This is a Yeti report. Again, we have vendor Yeti, product title, variant title, UPC, product type, net quantity sold, and net sales. And I think one thing to take away from this is we need to be looking at net sales, not gross, when we're reordering, because there's a lot that's not taken into account with gross that net does. So should look at that. And then beyond that, it shows costs. So you can divide those and figure out what your sustained margin is during this period. It's, it costs us $1,605 to sell $2,700 worth of product. This is often how we're creating budgets for product, for ordering. So we want to see what we sold. We want to understand better how much we have to spend on it for the next year. And a report like this helps us with that. Here's another one, similar report, but this one is integrating something a little differently to understand seasonality, is it's dropping the month of the year in with everything else. So we have all the same fields we talked about earlier, but we have the dates. So now we can start to get a trend for when we need our preseason shipments to drop and arrive at the stores, not just taking everything in the beginning. If we understand that Turtlebox, being more of a summer sale type of a manufacturer, doesn't start selling until June, we don't want to bring it in January. We want to bring it in when it's seasonally appropriate and it's time. Same way you would bring in winter clothing during the winter and summer clothing during the summer. Okay. One more report to discuss, and this is by product type. So we all use different terminology when we talk about type, but really it's department. So understanding within a certain department, this is a fly fishing retailer selling leader and tippet, with the vendors that they have and how those vendors are performing. So this starts to give you a snapshot of what is performing and what is not in a certain category. I love doing this at the end of the year to understand, who's winning and who's not. In this instance, you can see there's a runaway first place, and then there's some kind of everyone else is pretty close at the bottom. So to understand that you may be able to eliminate one of these vendors seems very realistic in this instance. And then a little more complicated, but this is one that we use quite often. And this is understanding what inventory we'll need to sustain sales for the next 3 weeks. So what this is showing you, let's pick a good example here, is that, let's see, kind of pick the best one. Okay, we'll do Howler Brothers Gaucho Snap Shirt, Enter the Dragon. So our inventory quantity is 3. During the last 3 weeks, we sold 2. So we only have 1 week of sustainable inventory if trend stays the same for that time period. So the ones we want to be afraid of here are the ones that are particularly low, like in this unstructured snapback. We only have 1 left. We sold 2 in the last 3 weeks. We can't sustain a projected 3-week inventory. We don't have it right now. So we need to buy more of those if our plan is to sustain sales. And we look at these all the time because those negatives that show up are indicators of what action needs to be taken as it pertains to keeping sales going. And that's one of the other things. Like we might have great sales, but if we can't sustain them, what does that leave us? Yeah. So first of all, thank you for joining us. And I think it's one of the most important things that we talk about here is kind of getting a handle on what we're doing with purchasing and how critical it is that we really are diligent and looking at the minutia of this in order to take control of our own business. And And I'm hopeful that you can use some of the tools that we're going to present on the ASA site afterwards to do some of the things we talked about. I will also be at ICAST talking about some of these things. So love to have you guys join us there, and we can talk in person as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Chris. And as Chris mentioned, um, this webinar, as well as the ones that are coming up and the ones that have happened previously, are all available on the ASA website. Simply go to asafishing.org, and under the communications tab, sorry, under the education tab, you'll see consumer engagement tackle box. And that page it starts with the upcoming webinars, and then it has the ones that have already been completed, along with, in most cases, the presentations and any other collateral that are helpful to this. As Chris mentioned, we are doing these types of webinars in person at ICAST this year. We've launched a new program called ICAST Live. It's going to be right there on the show floor near the new product showcase. We're going to have content like this, as well as some more technology focused, AI focused, a whole bunch of different stuff. And those run from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Wednesday and Thursday at ICAST. So we hope to see you there. Chris, am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so. Thanks so much, John.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank everybody for joining. And be sure to check out the consumer engagement tackle box. Thanks, everyone.